Used this past spring, the sun rose over my little garden, bright and full of promise. Rows of young greens stood tall, ready for the day. It looked perfect, just like I'd hoped. But then I saw it, ripped leaves, snapped stems, fresh hoof prints in the soft earth. The deer had struck again, right through the night. My heart sank. This wasn't just a loss of plants, it was a loss of the peace I sought. And I knew something had to change for good. And I know I'm not the only one who's felt that way. It is just so frustrating to put all that time and love into a garden, only to have it treated like an all-you-can-eat buffet overnight. It can make you feel completely defeated. You start looking around for answers, and everything seems either really expensive or like a ton of work. People tell you the only real solution is a giant, 8-foot-tall fence. Who has the budget or the space for that? Then there are all the sprays, which you have to reapply every time it rains. Or you're told to only plant things deer supposedly don't like, but we all know that's not a guarantee. It just feels like a losing battle. But after that morning, I went looking for a better way. And what I found was a simple, almost invisible trick that seriously works. And the best part? It costs about $3. You know, it sounds way too good to be true. But in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, and how it works with a few other simple strategies to finally protect your garden for good. So, how in the world can a $3 trick stop an animal that can easily jump an 8-foot fence? The secret isn't about building a stronger wall. It's about understanding a deer's greatest weakness. And it has nothing to do with their strength or how high they can jump. It's all about how they see the world. See, deer are incredible athletes, but they have really poor depth perception. They're just not good at judging distances and space. On top of that, they are naturally very cautious, very skittish animals. They hate uncertainty. And we can use that to our advantage. For years, clever gardeners have known that you don't always need one giant fence. Sometimes, two short fences, spaced just a few feet apart, work even better. Why? Because a deer walks up to that setup, and its brain just can't make sense of it. It knows it can clear the first fence, no problem. And it could probably clear the second one. But it can't figure out how to jump over the first one and still have enough space to land safely before hitting the second one. That little bit of confusion, that moment of hesitation, is usually enough to make them decide it's not worth it. They usually turn around and go find an easier meal. But it is where it gets even better, and where our super cheap trick comes in. You don't even need two fences. You can create that same mental roadblock with something they can barely see. This is the whole idea behind using simple fishing line. When a deer walks up to your garden, it doesn't really see a barrier. It just sees all those tasty plants waiting for it. So it moves forward confidently, and then, it bumps into something. An invisible force. This completely spooks them. Their self-preservation instinct goes into overdrive. They have no idea what they just touched. Is it a wire? A strange spider web? Some kind of trap? And because they are so cautious by nature, they won't try to push through it or jump over it. They usually just back away slowly. They decide your garden is weird, unpredictable, and just not worth the risk. So you see, the goal isn't to build a physical wall they can't cross. The goal is to create a mental barrier they won't cross. We're not trying to outmuscle them. We're using their own psychology against them. It's less of a fence and more of a gentle, invisible trick that respects their nature while keeping our garden safe. Alright, let's get this done. The great news is, building this little trick fence is incredibly simple and surprisingly fast. First, let's talk about what you'll need. The shopping list is short. You just need two things, some posts, and some fishing line. For the posts, you have a lot of options. Simply wooden stakes work perfectly. You could also use thin metal T-posts, rebar, or even sturdy tree branches if you have them. You just need something you can stick in the ground that will stay put. Space them out around the edge of your garden, about 8 to 10 feet apart. You don't need to be exact here, just get them in the ground so they form a perimeter. Now for the magic ingredient, the fishing line. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. In fact, a basic, clear fishing line is exactly what you want. Something around a 20-pound test is a good place to start. It's strong enough to not break in the wind, but weak enough that if an animal ever got seriously tangled, it would snap before causing any harm. Once your posts are in, it's time to string the line. We're going to create two separate strands. Start with the first one. You want to tie it about 3 feet off the ground. This is the perfect height to hit a deer right in the chest or neck area as it approaches. That's the first point of contact. Wrap the line around each post, keeping it pulled snug, but not super tight like a guitar string. It just needs to be taut enough so it don't droop. Next, you'll add a second line. Run this one about a foot higher than the first one, so it's sitting around 4 feet off the ground. The second line is what really plays with their head. It creates that weird, three-dimensional confusion we talked about. They touch the first line, look up, and sense another barrier they can't quite see or understand. And honestly, that's pretty much it. But there is one final tip that I think makes a huge difference. For the first week or two, tie a few small, white ribbons onto the top line, one every 10 feet or so. This helps the deer see and learn where the new boundary is. They'll approach, see the ribbon, feel the line, and learn to associate that area with something strange. After a week or so, once they've learned to avoid the area, you can go ahead and take the ribbons off. The invisible fence will now be in their memory, and they'll give your garden a wide berth. You see, it's not about building a wall. It's about creating a gentle reminder, a little nudge that convinces them your garden is more trouble than it's worth. Now, that little fence is a wonderful first step. It creates a boundary in a deer's mind. But for a garden that is truly, deeply peaceful, we can add a few more layers of protection. Because the truth is, no single strategy is 100% foolproof on its own. It's about combining them, creating a space that deer simply decide is not worth the hassle. Let's start with their sense of smell and taste. This is where repellent sprays come in. The whole idea is to make your beautiful plants taste or smell awful to a deer. You can buy commercial sprays, and they often use ingredients that sound a little strange, like rotten egg solids or hot pepper extracts. They work well, but you do have to reapply them, especially after it rains. You can also make your own simple versions at home. A mix of egg, a little milk, and some dish soap in a spray bottle can work wonders. The goal isn't to harm the deer, but just to make them take one bite, or one sniff, and think, nope, not for me, and then move on. Next, let's think about what startles them. Deer are creatures of habit and they don't like surprises. This is where motion-activated deterrents can be a great help. A motion-activated sprinkler that shoots a quick burst of water, or a light that suddenly flashes on, can be enough to send them running. It disrupts their quiet, nighttime feeding and makes them feel unsafe. The key here is to move these devices around every week or two. If that sprinkler is always in the same spot, they'll eventually get used to it. Even simple things, like hanging some old reflective CDs or leaving a radio playing softly, can add to that feeling of unpredictability that deer just don't like. But perhaps the wisest and most long-term strategy is to make the plants themselves part of the defense.